morning. It is 6:43. Welcome back to a great day on this Tuesday, 10th day of June. And we welcome to the desk our friend and our automotive expert. Yes, indeed, it is Ron, the car guy from Westside Auto Pros. As we are talking about, I'm guessing, since it says Pinto Frost on the back of this jug here, keeping things cool.
Definitely keeping things cool, and the frost is out of the ground, so we're going to talk about some summer stuff on your car, and it's about the cooling system, the antifreeze, the hoses, the water pumps, and AAA has done a survey, and they've determined that the #1 breakdown on vehicles on trips, summer vacations, family trips, stuff like that, is cooling system related. And I don't argue with that. I mean, we see it in the summertime. People head out on the road and their car breaks down, and more often than not, it's related to the antifreeze, the cooling system that keeps the engine cool. And part of the reason is when you start your car up, like today, and you drive to work, you get in it, you drive a few miles to work, and it only builds up pressure, and it's under pressure for 20 minutes or whatever. Then all of a sudden you load the family in the car and you decide that you're going to go to North Carolina or Kansas City or Dallas or wherever you're going, and that cooling system gets up to pressure and it stays under pressure for hours that you're driving on the road. And so then those weak components, the gaskets, the water pump seal, the radiator hoses, they're under pressure longer than they normally would be, and they fail. And that's why we see cooling system problems as the #1 cause of a car sitting alongside the road.
So what's the #1 thing people should do as we're heading into summer? Thankfully, we really haven't had too many hot days in a row, because we had a couple, but not in a row. We're going to get a whole row of these things coming up.
Definitely. And excuse me, people are going to be more worried about their air conditioner than keeping the engine cool. But if you're going on a trip, the #1 thing is going to depend on the age of the vehicle. The first thing is the hoses on your vehicle. The manufacturers of these hoses have determined that somewhere around 7 years is about the life of the hose. And you can't often tell by looking at the outside of the hose. I mean, you can squeeze it and look for a soft spot or see if it's bulging somewhere. But what happens to hoses is the coolant and the acid and stuff in the cooling system flows through the inside of the hose. And so it deteriorates from the inside out. So by opening the hood and looking at the hose, you can't see where the problem is, and that's why they recommend every 7 years to change the hoses on your vehicle, especially if you're going to go on a trip. And it's gotten to where it's expensive to put radiator hoses on cars. They're no longer a straight hose. They're molded. They're weird angles.
Yeah, look at the shape of that one.
So is that what that is? So if we open up our hood, we'd see something like that?
If you could even see it. I mean, you can't even see stuff under a hood anymore.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, you look at something like this. I mean, this is probably a $50, $60 hose. You got 2 of them on the car, and then you've got some time and some coolant involved in replacing it. It's not a cheap fix, but it's going to be cheaper than the inconvenience and the tow, and you're going to have to do it anyway, and then you're at somebody's mercy to get it done. So the age of the vehicles is what's going to determine that. The other thing is the antifreeze, the coolant that's inside the vehicle. And I'm going to contradict what a lot of manufacturers say, because I'm in the trenches. I see these cars come in. But there's a lot of manufacturers that are recommending coolant changes around 100 to 150,000 miles.
That's a long time.
It ain't going to happen. When cars are coming in with water pumps leaking and radiators leaking and gaskets that are leaking, I mean, we're seeing them at 60, 80, 90,000 miles. They have these problems. And when you test the coolant, the acid level in the coolant is almost always high when there's a cooling system failure, which is what happens when your cooling system the antifreeze starts to wear out. The acid level gets out of balance.
And then the acid just eats away.
It eats away at the gaskets and stuff. Or the other thing that happens is the acid level will go the other way, and it won't be able to dissolve and fight off the rust and the corrosion going on inside, and then your cooling system plugs up, and then you have a problem with restrictions in the cooling system. So my recommendation, not the manufacturers, but my recommendation is every 3 years or 50,000 miles, drain it, get the stuff out of there.
Flush it out?
Exactly.
Now, speaking of coolants, there's a couple different kinds of coolants that are out there. As you roll your eyes, there's different colors, and they say don't mix and match colors. And
exactly.
What's the story behind mixing and matching colors of coolant?
Well, the colors determine the types of coolant and what's in it. And I'm glad you brought this up, Lou. At Westside Auto Pros, we stock 9 different.
9?
9.
I thought there were 3.
We stock 9, and we don't have everything we need. We still have to get some sometimes.
Wow.
And so, just caution on that. I mean, there's manufacturers out there. There's I don't remember the names for sure, but they're universal coolants. You know, they're Chameleon, Leopard. I don't know if they changed their spots or what the deal is. If it would, universal means it doesn't fit anything.
Okay.
In my opinion. If you have something that's universal and will replace 9 coolants that are on the shelf, it's lacking in some department for every one of those vehicles.
There's some brands that say this mixes with anything. I've seen that advertised. This mixes with anything.
And it will mix with anything.
Yeah, so will water.
Well, exactly. But no, it will mix with anything, and it won't harm what's in there, but it's not doing something that should have been in there.
Okay.
And cars have ceramic in the engines now. They all have aluminum and stuff, and they require different chemicals to interact and protect those different components inside there and perform the function. So, you know, if you're going to throw if you're in an emergency, you're at a convenience store and you're low and you need to put something in, and that's all they have is a fits-all coolant, you know, that's better than nothing. Or maybe add some water, especially in the summertime. But put the right stuff in. I mean, it costs more. I mean, we try to do it right, you know, at our facility. And it costs a little bit more to use the correct coolant and to stock all those coolants and stuff. But I don't want somebody coming back 6 months or 8 months from now saying, hey, you know, my intake gaskets failed because of X. And we have it's a catastrophic failure that we're dealing with right now. And I might have mentioned this on an earlier show because we've been dealing with it for several weeks. It's a huge job. But somebody put diesel exhaust fluid in a cooling system, and there's no mistaking. I mean, for us, I mean the smell and the appearance and stuff, but it is sold in a container that looks just like antifreeze.
Does it really? And
so it was done by mistake, and it was put in this vehicle unknowingly, and I mean the repair is. I mean, it's through the roof. I mean, it's a third of the value of the car. But what are you going to do? You're not going to throw it away. I mean, the car overheated, it contaminated and stuck inside the engine. We've got the engine stripped down to get things cleaned out, and it's just a big mess. And you know, it's on your coin. I mean, there's no one to blame, and of course nobody knows where it came from. But you know, and that's an extreme because now we introduced a chemical in there that wasn't even designed to be in a cooling system. But make sure that you're putting the right coolant, or whoever's servicing your car is using the right coolant, because that is a huge deal.
Is that part of a normal checkup for a car, like a routine schedule for a car that you would check a coolant or replace that? Or is that something you would need to come in and request?
No, it should be. It should be part of an oil change. I mean, when we change oil, we obviously test the freeze protection, which you think, okay, that doesn't matter in the summertime, but it tells you the balance. Do you have enough coolant versus water in the cooling system? We'll test that. And then we also test the pH level, just like you would in a swimming pool. Mm-hmm. And that tells us, you know, where the acid's balanced at. I mean, if it's too high or if it's too low, we then know it's time to service the
coolant to water level percentage, 50-50 for you?
It's still 50-50.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, since you're talking about the coolants and you're talking about the hoses that need to be replaced, the hoses are great to move the coolant through the system as long as the pump is working.
Exactly.
Now, since the hoses obviously are rubber, so are the belts.
Great point.
Okay, would this be the time to get those replaced or checked? Or?
Yeah, and those really should be checked, you know, anytime you change oil. And we're back to the same rule of thumb on a belt. If your car's 7 years old and you haven't put a belt on it, and even if it's not showing any cracks, if I was going on a long trip, I would certainly consider putting one on there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, we get calls on our emergency line. I mean, every weekend, you know, Saturday nights, on Sunday, and people are broke down along the side of the road, and you know, getting your car fixed probably isn't going to happen in Des Moines, Iowa on a Sunday because of parts availability and stuff, and it just. Now you've got a tow involved, and an ounce of prevention is what it's going to take. I mean, these parts are rubber. they're not going to last forever.
They're going to break down.
Exactly.
When you hear a car chirping, kind of that, that when one pulls up to the stoplight,
Yep.
you hear it kind of making that little chirp, chirp, chirp kind of
Yep.
noise. Is that, I mean, that thing needs new belts, isn't that?
Well, yeah, that's a warning sign. Yeah. Don't ignore it. It's not there for your entertainment.
Hey, what a great sound! I love that.
And you know, it could be the sign of an aged, dry belt, which it usually is, Mark. The other thing is there might be something loose or out of alignment. But either way, it's telling you, hey, I'm going to give you a problem.
All right, so if people want to make a pit stop and have these things checked out, where can they find your place?
WestsideAutopros.com. Click on the locations tab, or email me or call me. I'm here to help.
Okay, for any question too that you do answer a ton of questions. How do they get a hold of you that way?
AskRonTheCarGuy.com is the best way to submit questions, and I will answer all questions.
There you go. Perfect. Good job, my friend.
Thank
you.
you.
All right, buddy. It is 6 minutes before 7 o'clock. We'll be right back. This is Great Day.